Hey there, good day. Welcome to this next video. Today I wanted to provide the two primary reasons that I moved out of state from California back home to Central Texas. If you're new to my channel, my name is Mike. Okay, so let me get straight into it. Reason number one to move out of state, which is probably the most common reason, is financial. California, the Bay Area in particular, which is where I lived for the last 15 years before moving back to Texas, is a very expensive place to live. And I spent about almost 13 years living in Oakland, California. And then my last 2.5, almost 3 years were spent living in San Jose. I was forced out of Oakland and had to move to San Jose. Unfortunately, my transition from Oakland to San Jose, my cost of living doubled. It really wasn't my preference to move from Oakland to San Jose. I didn't mind moving there, but I was basically forced out of Oakland, out of the apartment that I had lived in for over a decade, and found new living situation in San Jose. Really enjoyed my time in San Jose, but my rent alone did double when I moved to the South Bay. And rents in the Bay Area in California were and are only going up. And it can become pretty challenging to live in California, right? Could I have made it work out? Certainly I could have figured things out on how to afford my cost of living there in San Jose. Except it was a little bit, or is a little bit, trickier than that. By the time I made the decision to move in 2024, I had at that point already been into what was going on to a fourth year of a child custody lawsuit initiated by my son's other parent. This was the third lawsuit that she's filed against me. But one of the impacts of being in child custody court is financial. If you are a parent and you've ever been through child custody, then you would know and understand this. If you have not been through that as a parent, or maybe you've been through it as a child, if you don't have a lawyer in child custody court, you're doing yourself a disservice, and more importantly, doing your child a disservice. So I did have a lawyer, and my lawyer is close to $500 an hour. I still have my lawyer as my representative. So what this boiled down to was that my finances were deeply impacted by my son's other parent's decision to file a frivolous child custody lawsuit and to drag it out for over 3 years and use that as one of her strategies to try to impact my life financially, which it obviously did, except that I don't believe she actually recognizes or has the capacity to recognize that impacting my finances means it's also impacting our child, right? But regardless, that first reason to move was a financial decision. I wanted to make sure that my son and I never wound up being housing and income insecure. Reason number two is in the early fall of 2024, we had a hearing in court. We had already been through trial in our child custody case. We had already received a decision by the court. Court orders had already been put into place. And then there were other things that we needed to return to court for. But at one specific court hearing, my son's court-appointed attorney shared some information that the judge was unhappy with. And at this point, the judge had already gone off on my son's other parent about 3 times in court, mostly and all connected to issues of coaching and manipulation of our child. At this specific hearing, when the judge heard some shared information by my son's lawyer, he was unhappy with mom again, and the judge had some strong words for her. It was triggered by her behavior outside of court and things that she was saying to our child that are inappropriate for the court case. So what wound up happening is that the judge made threats of removal of our son from both of our care. The judge went on for a little while as he was sharing his unhappiness with the current situation. He had some things to tell mom. She was unhappy about what she was hearing from the judge. Once that hearing was over, when I checked in with my lawyer and said, okay, what are we talking about? When the judge says you're going to force me to intervene and you're not going to like the outcome, Like, what does that mean? You know, my lawyer basically said, well, he's talking about the foster care system, removing you two from guardianship and putting your child under the care of someone else. When my lawyer mentioned the possibility of my son being removed and put into foster care because of his mom's behavior, I put a lot of thought into it. I started, having conversations with close friends and family. And that's really when I made the decision that I needed to move. And part of my thought process for that was that maybe if I remove myself from the situation, but can somehow still keep custody of my child, still have visitation rights, still allow him to be able to visit me here in Texas, that maybe this would ease up some of his life, some of the anxiety and stress that he suffers through because of his parents. Now, here we are as of the recording of this video. My son is technically supposed to be with me right now, and he's not because mom is refusing and making it difficult. So my original intention of let me move out of state, my son's about to be 16 years old when I made the decision. I thought he's getting old enough, and maybe this will make things simpler and easier. And all of that has proven to not work out the way that I was hoping it would. Mom has only stayed consistent in her behavior, or in some cases gotten worse, which was my general experience after my move to California 15 years ago. I thought that things would get better. Mom only got worse. Okay, so those are the two primary reasons that I left California back home to Texas. Make sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Like this video. Check out my other videos, like them, leave comments, ask questions. I invite you to come along on this journey with me. And from Central Texas with love, we'll see you next time.